This week on the Pick Six, it absolutely never gets old to beat the Dallas Cowboys. Green Bay Packers win in the wild card round of the NFL playoffs. Looking ahead to the divisional round against the San Francisco 49ers. We can't wait. We can't wait to bring it all to you on this edition of the Pick Six. And the Pick Six is live. Brendan Dworzinski, Jacob Westendorf. We are here breaking it all down from the wild card round. The Green Bay Packers demolish the Dallas Cowboys by a gigantic margin, 48-32. And frankly, it was not even that close. We're going to get to every single element of it. A surprisingly decent day for the most part by the defense. The offense going absolutely bananas all afternoon long down at Jerry World. Of course, we will also look ahead to the divisional round and that old arch nemesis, the San Francisco 49ers. That is coming up on Saturday night. This rules, man. This is awesome. I know everyone says, house money and, oh, well, you're not just happy to be there, but also like you weren't expecting to be there, et cetera, et cetera. I went into the game feeling as normal as I've ever felt going into a playoff game, which was weird. I thought, okay, this is going to blow up in my face. It's going to be a disaster. It went better than I ever could have expected. I thought there was a path to victory. I did. I picked the Cowboys to win because I thought the offense would be too much for Joe Barry's defense to handle. But I thought the entire time there was a pathway for the Packers to end up winning. And then they took dynamite to that pathway and blew up everything in their way. It was remarkable. I'm still kind of in awe from it.
Ye of little faith, I picked the Packers to win. Because as Jonathan Owens told my personal friend, Tyler Dunn, we ain't come here just to participate. And Green Bay did not just participate. And don't let the final score fool you. Do not let any doubt seep into your mind. The Green Bay Packers beat the piss out of the Dallas Cowboys. It was 48-16. I do not care what the final score was. I put almost no stock into that. This was one of the better defensive performances considering the opponent that they've had in the playoffs in the last 10 years. This was maybe the best offensive performance they've had in the last 10 years. And then that's without even adjusting for opponent and first-time starter at quarterback. I hate the Cowboys.
Same. Big same.
And I grew up and I was raised to hate the Cowboys. And it doesn't take much. Like, I didn't really have to be coached into it all that much. Mm-hmm. But watching the Packers just for years, because when I was younger, I was little when the Packers would beat up or get beat up by the Cowboys. So I didn't really understand that. Mm-hmm. But I know it happened. And like watching the Packers just own this half since what? The Cowboys and Packers have played in the playoffs, twice now, 3 times now, and the Packers have won all of those. Mm-hmm. And it's been fun to watch. It's like it's revenge for all the heartache they caused those 90s teams that probably, quote unquote, deserved more than one championship. And the Packers are kind of playing that role now without winning the titles that those 90s Cowboys teams did. But, this Cowboys stretch from 2014 to now where the Packers have beaten them 3 times in the playoffs. Yeah, one of those teams, like this year's team was good enough to win a Super Bowl. 2014 team was good enough to win a Super Bowl, and that 2017 team was the 1 seed in the NFC. They probably would have gotten beat just because Dak Prescott was a rookie, all that stuff that goes into that. Maybe they would have won. I don't know. But like all of those teams were good enough to win a title, and the Packers just snatched their soul from them. Mm-hmm. And you can tell too, because I can tell you from talking to Cowboy fans, this was not the team they wanted to play. They were like, I don't care if Aaron Rodgers is gone. There's something about the G on that helmet or something that makes us do stupid things. And apparently there is. And the Packers now have earned the right to determine whether or not Saturday night's game is a 5-fingered death march or a chance to play for the NFC title. In Jordan Love's first season as a starter,
First season as a starter with children, literal children at all the receiver positions and tight end and youth on the offensive line. I mean, it's remarkable. And we're going to get to that game coming up in just a little bit. The vibes are high right now, man. I'm going to be honest with you. We're rocking. It's cutoff season. The playoffs are here. You got to believe. Cutoff, no sleeve season. We're here to celebrate. We're here to feel good. We're here to bring positive vibes to this team. I absolutely love this thing. Shout out to my pal Maddie for getting me this a couple of years ago. We're going to skip the extra point this week because Anders Carlson is our kicker, and he probably would have missed it anyway. So let's just dive right into the action from Sunday afternoon. Pulled in a monster number. Fox was just salivating to get this game when they were figure out who they were going to end up with the TV broadcast. Olsen and Burkhart did everything they could late in the game to say, well, the Cowboys are trying. Oh, someone will want Mike McCarthy to coach him next year. Oh, look at this effort. Wow, Sneedy almost caught a pass in the end zone. They did their best. I've been on the other end. I've been in the booth for broadcasts of blowouts in football before. I know how hard it is. We watched a massacre in Arlington, Texas on Sunday to, again, a degree, like I said earlier, I did not think we were capable of seeing in this game. And all the credit in the world to Matt LaFleur for putting together a remarkable game plan, to Jordan Love for putting together one of the single greatest one-game performances in Packers playoff history. And we have been spoiled beyond all hell. I was born into Brett Favre. 2 days after I was born, the Packers beat the Vikings on a Sunday afternoon on September 4th, 1994. I was born 2 days earlier. All I know is great quarterback play, and I'm incredibly blessed and spoiled to be able to say.
Now, to be fair, there was like that 3-week stretch in October where we were kind of like, those were dark times.
They were.
Suffering Packer fans.
We had
like a whole month.
Like 3 games of Seneca Wallace one time. Like, I mean, it's been tough. There have been those moments, but this was right up there with one of the greatest single games I've ever seen. And the Packers, I know 7 of them came because of a pick six. I know that. The Packers put up 48 points and their quarterback threw the ball 21 times. 16 completions in a football game, Jacob. And this team put up 41 offensive points, 48 total. That is unbelievable. And I was going to say everybody got in the mix. That's not true. Not everybody got in the mix. You got Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, and Dontavian Wicks. Now, there was the Wicks touchdown, which we'll get to that throw later because that was incredible.
Banana land.
Those 3 combined for 3 catches, 34 yards, and a touchdown. That's it.
Jaden Reed got bageled. Players. 0 for Jaden Reed.
And had a great tweet about, sorry, I messed up y'all parlays, but I'm glad that we won. Let's move on. Like, yes, Jaden, that's absolutely the way to approach that. I'm in shock. Like the way Romeo Dobbs went out there and he said, Jacob Westendorf, kiss my ass. And he put up an all-time performance. You got Luke Musgrave, as we've all seen the video at this point of Matt LaFleur. Musgrave standing on his feet. Yeah. Like the place went nuts. The vibes are incredible with this team to the point where, you don't go into the 49ers game thinking like, oh man, like, well, win or lose, we're just happy to be here. Because that's not what the Green Bay Packers are. That's not what Packers fans are, what they believe. I understand that. But I don't know how you can't feel at least a little bit more positive going into this weekend matchup, knowing, shoot, why not? Why can't this team continue to do this? And the answer is because the 49ers are actually good, not frauds. But overall, when you get everyone clicking, and our guy on YouTube right here saying when Jones is going, it doesn't take much else for the Pack to win. Aaron Jones has looked like an all-pro in the last 4 weeks. The young receivers have balled out. Jordan Love looks remarkable. I mean, where do you start and where do you stop with this game against the Cowboys? This is going to go down as one of my favorite games of all time, and I'm pretty confident in saying that now.
Yeah, I mean, so as far as playoff wins, Peter Bukowski and Packer pundits alike are all saying like, oh, best playoff win since. And like Dallas during the run the table season where Mason made 2 absolute nukes of field goals certainly comes to mind. The Dez Bryant game in 2014 certainly comes to mind. Otherwise, I'm hard pressed to go back, and I probably take this game over that. It's hard. I'm hard pressed to pick a game since 2010 that's like a better moment for them from a playoff standpoint. Because like if you go through some of these playoff runs, 2012 they won a wild card game against Minnesota where we're all just kind of like, Joe Webb, whatever. And then 2013, they didn't win a game.
Yeah.
2014, the Des Bryant game was objectively a great one. But the ending of that season and the anniversary of that is this week. So just, for those of you that are into time hops and Facebook memories and stuff like that, just, maybe on Thursday, skip that one.
Yeah.
I'm here to help
Don't
you guys.
us. Yeah.
I'm here to help you guys.
Don't send mean things to Brandon Boston. he don't do that.
Yeah, please. But you just kind of keep going through everything. And yeah, the run the table stretch was awesome. But I mean, this game was awesome. Like, I'm almost at a loss for words for it just because I thought they would win. I did pick them to win and call it blind homerism or faith or, whatever you want to call it for the reason that I picked them. But I did not expect them to beat the shit out of them. Like, the game was over at 27-0. And I know, like, every Packer fan in the world, if I had tweeted, "Oh, game over," would have been like, "Don't jinx it," which, first of all, Cubs, White Sox, Red Sox, 3 of the most famous curses in the world have all ended in my lifetime. Jinxes are not real. Michigan Wolverines, too, which, shout out, national champs. Anyways.
Yes. The oft maligned and much beleaguered winningest team in the history of the sport.
Yeah, it's been tough, man. It's been tough. But anyway, like, jinxes aren't real, number one. Number two, everyone will be like, "Oh, Joe Barry." It's like, well, the Packers are going to play offense too. So, like, I really don't care. Like I said, the Cowboys scored 32 points. It didn't matter because the Packers scored 21 more. Like, at 27-0, they scored 21 more points. The only way that game gets interesting, in my opinion, is if Dallas scores that touchdown at the end of the half, which should have been nullified for a false start, but whatever. Kansas City fans probably tell you that he should have got a warning or something like that anyways. And then if Dallas scores a touchdown and then Green Bay punts, which I 100% texted one of my friends, that's absolutely happening. Dallas is scoring a touchdown on the first possession of the second half and Green Bay is going 3 and out. And it'll be 27-14 and Dallas with the ball. Neither one of those things happened because Dallas kicked a field goal, which made it 27-10, and then Green Bay scored in like 5 plays. So, now it's 34-10, and any semblance of hope that Dallas had is gone. Because the only way you make that a game, first of all, was when it was 20-0 and you threw the pick six. You're thinking 20-14 next time you touch it. Or next time Green Bay touched it, that is. Didn't happen. Then you're thinking, okay, 27-14, not great, but still doable. Now it's 34-10. Can't slow down Aaron Jones. Can't slow down Romeo Doubs, who texted me after the game and said something very similar to what Brendan said earlier. He didn't use profanity because Romeo's a classy fella. But he did say something about, whether or not I like apples or something to that effect. Then they hit the bomb to Musgrave. Like, Matt LaFleur was kind of just like, let's see if this works. Let's see if this works. Let's see if this works. It was hilarious to kind of watch
that thing, man. Let's be blunt. He was slanging that thing all game. Like, it felt personal the way he was calling that game for the offense.
Yes. Yeah. And he said before the game, we've got some haymakers and let's make it, what do you say, muck it up or make it ugly, or I can't remember the exact phrasing he used to the radio broadcast before the game started. But I mean, this is a team that feels, I don't want to say like a team of destiny because you're going to hear my prediction later, and it certainly does not jive with team of destiny idea, but it feels like a team that's growing up before our very eyes, number one, and number two, just saying like, hey, we're here. And like every team in the world plays the nobody believes in this card. Like, San Francisco is probably saying like, oh, well, a lot of people betting on the Packers. It's like, you're the 1 seed and you won 12 games and you're awesome every year. Like, the underdog thing doesn't work for you. But the Packers, it does, because 4 years ago, they wouldn't have even made the playoffs, which is hilarious and kind of an egg on my face because I said I hate the 17 format, but now it benefits my favorite team. So, hey, the 17 format's great. And the Packers are the first team. I'll tell you this. The Packers are like the best team to be the 7 seed, to be the first one to win as a 7 seed. And the Cowboys are the best team to be the 2 seed to lose at home. As it is absolutely incredible to watch that collapse happen on live TV. And then, like I said, listening to the broadcast, just try and sell this as, well, when Dallas gets back in the game. And I'm like, they're not going to. No. They are not going to. There was not one moment of that game after 27-0, and especially after 34-10, where I'm like, okay, this is kind of dicey, kind of scary. Never was.
Nope.
And it was never going to be. And it is an ass kicking like I can't remember. Like, I can't remember Green Bay blowouts where it was just like, oh, yeah, they won that game essentially from start to finish. They led wire to wire. They took the ball, they scored, and they never trailed. And they were up by 2 scores from the time it was 14-0 until the game ended. That's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I think of games like that one game against Tennessee and was that a 2011 game? I mean, they just tore them to shreds, and that was obviously one of the greatest offenses of all time when they put up 50 plus. You think of 42-0 at half against the Bears. Like, you think of games like that. This was the playoffs on the road and not with Aaron Rodgers. And that's not to be said, I'm not trying to make a comparison between the two. I'm just saying Aaron Rodgers is one of the greatest to ever play the game. Jordan Love is in his first ever playoff appearance, his first ever playoff start, his first season as a starter, and they did that. The word I came up with to describe it, it was relentless from the offense, because every time that the offense touched the ball, save for when Sean Clifford came in, and wherever you are, guy who was in the YouTube comments midway through the season saying it was time to give Sean Clifford a try, and that I didn't know what I was talking about because I said he'll never be the starter for Green Bay. Come on out. Let's hop in the comment section. See what's going on there. See what's going on up in your brain right now. Anyway, it was just an onslaught, never ending. And every time the Packers touched the ball, especially in the second half, after we had gotten a full 30 minutes of holy crap, look at what this team is doing, you thought, and I thought, I'm sure you did, I'm sure everyone did, oh, the Packers are scoring here. Like, they're going to do it again. Now, I didn't expect Luke Musgrave with 35 yards of space in every direction kind of scores, but they couldn't stop Aaron Jones. Jordan Love was shredding them in every which way, on platform, off platform, in rhythm, out of structure, all of it. He was making it all happen. But again, 16 completions, and this team scored 41 offensive points in the game. That is remarkable, even in today's NFL, to have that kind of efficiency for a full 60 minutes. And again, it's the fact that it was so many different guys who were making plays in this game. Not the hugest statistical day for Tucker Kraft, but he was making big plays that were influencing positive gains throughout the game. Luke Musgrave making a big play. That is a huge deal. Obviously, Romeo Doubs was fantastic. Our guy, Iowa Joe, in the YouTube comments right now, Packers offensive line made Parsons completely disappear. And let's be fair, guys. There was a holding call. Like, that's what Mike Parsons has been begging for weeks and weeks. He got a holding call, and it was true. He beat his man, and Rasheed Walker, or it was Elton Jenkins. That's who it was, Big E, who tackled him. Yeah, that's true. What else did he do? Nothing the whole game. The offensive line was great. Zach Tom was awesome, just absolutely awesome. There are few games that you can point to, or generally speaking, there are a few games where you can look at a team and said they left absolutely, without a doubt, no chance they were losing this game. There was no chance in hell the other team had a prayer in this game. And it felt like that very early on in this one, which is a credit, I think, to the coaching staff. And that's Matt LaFleur, that's Adam Stenavich, that is everybody on that staff, on the offensive staff especially, and defensive too. I think they played a fine game, gave up 32 points. The game was over, guys. Jacob mentioned at the 34-10 score, the game was over at that point. So what? Yeah, you would have liked to have helped your points per game average. Big whoop, big deal. Those are garbage time points. Those don't mean anything anyway. It was awesome. It was all I could have ever hoped for. And to get to Jay Love specifically, man, what do you say? Like, I don't know that every game is going to be like that. That's probably going to be one of the best he ever has. I have my doubts he looks like that coming up against San Francisco, but the throws he was making, leaning away, dancing around from pressure, and the one that I mentioned earlier, and I know this has stood out for a ton of people, the touchdown pass to Dontavian Wicks, and you could see it all unfolding perfectly in 4K just from the TV angle. And he, calling out the signals, sees the pressure comes in, diagnoses it, adjusts things at the line, checks his receivers, then with pressure, still makes that off-platform throw where only Dontavian Wicks could have caught it. If anyone was going to catch that pass, it was Wicks, or it was going to be an incompletion. He put it in the absolute perfect spot in an unorthodox way. Like, that's not just dang, that's pretty good. No, that's like there are not many guys in this league who can do all of that at once. And that's not to say Jordan Love, like, top 5 already, like, lock it in. He's played like that in the last 2 months. I agree 100% there. I don't think you can say full body of work he's there yet, but that's the kind of company you're talking about when you can make plays like that, given the moment, given the guys you're playing, given everything that went into that situation. And he rose to the occasion, and he was better than I think anyone could have expected.
Yeah, the Packers were not supposed to have the quarterback advantage in this game. And I know the talking head shows and debate culture and everything that we've cultivated over the last 10 years as a sports viewing society tell you that Dak Prescott's terrible and can't win the big one. Dak Prescott's going to finish first or second in MVP voting. He was awesome this year. He led the league in touchdown passes and admittedly did not play particularly well on Sunday. But even if he had, Jordan Love was lights out. Like that whole sequence that you're talking about, like as my hand got deeper and deeper into my pants as it was happening on live television. Like what? Did I say something bad?
No. Hey man, you're in the comfort of your own home. I am not here to kink shame. That is not my game.
Nonetheless, watching him control the line of scrimmage, switch to max protection, throw it off a funky platform with a funky arm angle. Jordan Love threw 3 touchdown passes on Sunday from 3 different arm angles. That is incredible to me, first of all.
Crazy.
Like, I don't want to invoke the name because it's not fair to put him on the same pedestal as somebody who's one of the 5 greatest quarterbacks ever. But you said some of the stuff he was doing is stuff that only certain people on the planet could do. Well, that's Pat Mahomes. And like, again, is Jordan Love going to throw 5 touchdowns and light up the 49ers on Saturday? Probably not. But he could. And like the whole point of this season was supposed to be that Jordan doesn't have to do everything. Well, he doesn't have to do everything, but he can. Like that's the part that is the most incredible of it all, is that he doesn't have to, no, but he can. Like, I don't think, and Packer fans maybe don't fully understand this just because, like I said, we really had that 3-week dark period where we didn't know if the quarterback was any good or not. But otherwise, it's been great quarterback forever. And they've been able to do all this fun stuff. Brock Purdy doesn't do that. You know, that's not a slight to Brock Purdy. It's just true. He doesn't do that. Jared Goff doesn't, of the quarterbacks left in the NFC playoffs, they don't really do that. His performance, the 2 best quarterback performances I have ever seen in my life were Aaron Rodgers against Atlanta in 2011 and Aaron Rodgers in the Super Bowl that year. And Love's performance on Sunday is right up there with those 2 performances. Now, pressure of the game, all that sort of stuff, a little bit different for Rodgers in the Super Bowl, obviously, but completely in his zone and looked like a guy that, and like you said, Jaden Reed, 0 catches. Christian Watson, 1 catch. Luke Musgrave had the 1 big play. Tucker Kraft, not a whole heck of a lot. Like, this was the Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love, and Romeo Dobbs show in the passing game. And then Aaron Jones, that's where you say where we get to the next point of the game. Aaron Jones gets a game ball from me in any other setting. But because Jordan Love was lights out in his first performance in a game where I don't know the exact stats, but quarterbacks in their first playoff game typically lose and lose badly and play poorly in the process. Like, it's not a game they're supposed to win. And the Packers not only won, they beat the piss out of the Cowboys, who, again, when you started the NFC playoffs, I would guarantee you like 90% of brackets had Niners Cowboys championship Sunday. And those would be the guys standing and be like, oh, who called it? Well, you and every single other person that probably filled out one of these stupid playoff brackets, but not going to happen now, because and again, there isn't a game. I'm going to get in trouble for saying this. There is not a game that Green Bay is going to play through the rest of the NFC playoffs where they do not have a decided advantage at the quarterback position. And that is incredible that I am saying that, considering we kind of talked about this last week when they were 2-5. I'll admit it. I had a picture of Drake May photoshopped into a Packers jersey in my phone. Because yes, I was thinking quarterback. They were a top
for
5
sure. No, I
team.
get it. I get it.
And it was justified in my opinion.
Yes.
Now, obviously it's not. And they've got their guy. And somebody asked earlier, do we pay him Deshaun Watson money? Probably more than that. And he is worth his weight in gold if that is what.
Get it done. He's the dude. Just get it done. Whatever it takes, get it done.
Yeah. There's no questions left. There is no, I got to see it again. Now, I understand some people might want to do the whole, like Jalen Hurts, for example. Awesome last year, not as good this year. Why? And you may have some of those questions about Jordan Love, but this is the part of the game that you played. And Jordan Love has answered every question and then some. And you have that same feeling with him. How many times did we go into a playoff game where it was like the other team is better, but we got 12? So we got a puncher's chance.
I don't have enough fingers.
Right. So there's a lot here. The other team is better. San Francisco is better. But we got number 10. So we got a chance.
Two things that stand out. One, the comment you made about the quarterbacks around the rest of the NFC playoffs. Like that shouldn't be taken necessarily as a slight. Like Jared Goff, I give him a ton of credit because he very easily could have just said, screw this, man. Like I got tossed to the curb. I don't want to do this. I'm just going to cash my checks and play as long as I can. And
he is one of the toughest individuals. I remember when he played at Lambeau in the cold with a mangled thumb. Like his thumb was literally facing the other direction. Couldn't do it. Mm-hmm. It was incredible to kind of watch the way that he did those things. And I think Jared Goff gets a lot of crap because he's not Patrick Mahomes, but I think that's the way. One of the problems we have with quarterback analysis, people were in the middle of the year saying Josh Allen isn't that good. Josh Allen,
who is a freak.
Come on, man. Like Josh Allen is one of the 5 best football players in the world.
Yeah. No, you're not going to get an argument there from me. So it's not to discredit him or Brock Purdy. And you can say whatever you want about Brock Purdy and the fact that, he's finding success because of the pieces around him. But here's the most important part of that. He's finding success. Like it is working. Go look at EPA, go look at success rate, all those things. His numbers are off the chart. They win with him. That is meaningful. And that is a credit to Purdy and to that 49ers team. And I'm not saying a bad thing about Baker Mayfield. I think Baker's probably limited relative to some of these other guys, but I'm a Baker guy through and through. Love Baker Mayfield. I'm not going to say anything bad about him.
Nope. Right there with you.
None of those things should be like discrediting. It's just there's a different skill set, and what Love can be and is at his best there is just on a different level physically than what these other guys are able to do. Steven Ruiz, this is the other thing I wanted to get to here. Steven Ruiz at the Ringer, who I really enjoy his work. I know I don't always agree with his takes, but I really enjoy his work and his writing on the NFL. And he had a piece about what he called trick shot quarterbacks and how that is becoming something you need to have to get to the next level as a team. We know Mahomes can do it. The no look, the left hand, all the crazy stuff he does, obviously. Josh Allen is a wildebeest with an arm. Like he's just an unbelievable specimen and quarterback. He's got that. Stroud, I think, has shown that he's got that. Herbert, a little bit different. He's in that category because his arm is just outrageous. Jordan Love is like that. The throw to Dontavian Wicks, the first one to Romeo Doubs early in the game where he's scrambling around to the right of the pocket, fading away, gets walloped at the end of it. He's got that. How the hell did he do that element to his throws? It's a great piece at the Ringer. If you haven't read it, by the way, I would certainly suggest going to check it out. But he's got that. And you can be a good to great quarterback and not have that. Like, Peyton Manning didn't make trick shot throws when he was in the league. And granted, the league has even changed a bunch in the 8 years since he retired, but you can be an all-time great without that. But if you do have that, your potential, it's just so much higher. Your potential ceiling is so much higher. And I think that's what we're seeing with Jordan Love right now. It's awesome, man. Like to go from, and I agree, and because I said it too, but I agree at the time, middle of the season, like, hey, this isn't good enough. And you can want it to work as much as possible. And we talked about that ad nauseum, that I want it to work, But right now it's not. You have 10 weeks left or whatever. Let's figure it out if you can be the guy. And we have. He has passed that test with flying colors, and I don't regret anything we said at the time because it was fair, and at the time it was true. And since then, you could make an argument, has been the best quarterback in the NFL. That's what you have seen from him since then, and that's a credit to Love, and again, that's a credit to Matt LaFleur, who, by the way, does he have his flaws? Yes, he does. I have a lot of issues with his choice of coordinators, for example. I think that is something that he could work on going forward, no matter what the staff looks like after this season. I think sometimes he gets so frustrated about the way his team executed a play that he feels like he needs to throw the challenge flag just to have something to do. That is frustrating for sure. But he's a hell of a coach, man, and he knows how to make an offense work and how to make an offense hum and how to get to the right plays in the right moments for the right guys. And that's another one you're talking about earlier. People in the middle of this season thought, well, maybe Josh Allen's not even good. You don't have to go all that far. You don't go to people that we know, that we're friends with, that we see tweets from and takes from all the time, who said maybe Matt LaFleur's not the guy. And I don't just mean the doofus talking heads who said, oh, what about Bill Belichick? Anyone puts Michael Lombardi on TV in 2024 is like putz. Anyway, that's a digression. We'll move on from that.
You mean the guy who is like 9 years old and calls him Matt LaFlunk, among other things? If you have to use ridiculous. I hate to invoke this man's name, but I will because it's hilarious that the Packers just beat the piss out of his team. But if you have to do like nicknames like Skip Bayless did, do you remember like when Chris Bosh was on the Heat and they called him Bosh Spice? And like Bosh told him that was bullshit, and Skip was like, I stand by it. Like, what? Michael Lombardi does that. Skip Bayless is a TV character, right? That's all he is. Michael Lombardi is allegedly a real human person. Like, not doing stuff for TV clout. What the hell?
It's wild that, and I'm not nearly as anti-Pat McAfee as you are, although he is speed running, ending in ESPN.
Oh, he's terrible. He's terrible. How long until he says a racial slur with the hard ER on the end of it on TV?
He got weirdly close to that the other day. But like, I'm not.
Did you hear the thing last week on College Game Day?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So before the national championship game that Michigan played in and beat Washington in and won the title, there was something like, I'm not getting into a Reese Davis situation. Like, ha ha ha. Reese Davis said, let a naysayer know, because he can't say what that actually means.
He can't
because
say that word, right? But my point was going to be that like that show gets Aaron Rodgers, and I know that's because they're buddy. I got an interview weekly with Nick Saban and like real dignitaries of sport, and then they bring on Michael Lombardi every week. Like, come on, what are you guys doing? I want to touch on this real quick because we have Actually, I'm going to wait. We're going to get to a 49ers point here in just a moment because we have someone who's in the YouTube comments. Appreciate you watching us, who is a 49ers fan and has some thoughts about Brock Purdy and the 49ers. That's fine. We'll get to that. We'll be very fair about that in a moment. I do want to get to outside of Jordan Love, who was just, he rules, dude. He is awesome. Watching him play is a treat. It is so cool. Other players who stood out. Boy, he did it of the week. Someone else who really wowed you on tape this week.
Well, I feel like I owe him an apology. So Romeo Doubs, man, and one of your finest moments on this platform and on the internet in general was your soliloquy on Romeo Doubs with Matt Freilich on the final dump in those days, discussing how maybe some people might wager a jelly bean or two on college football, and that might be how they know who Romeo Doubs is for the Mac After Dark type stuff and things of that nature. But I will tell you, if you had told me, hey, there's a Packers receiver that's going to go for $150 in a playoff game, I would not have guessed Romeo Doubs first, second, or third. And he has been, I do still think that like he's a little bit overrated by the fan base. I think his, he, for being a contested catch guy, I still think he drops one too many of those, but I'm not going to do the negative stuff about him because he's a playoff hero. Like, how many Packer receivers in recent memory have gone for $150? I don't know if Devontae ever did that, to be 100% honest with you. Like, without looking, I don't know.
I think he is the only other one to have done that.
The game that comes to mind where like that's possible is the Cowboys game in 2014, because I know he had a big game that day, but I don't think he went for $150. In that particular game.
No, I know the game. I looked it up, but I already knew it. Seattle. Remember when they put what's
Oh
his face,
yeah,
like
yeah,
third
yeah.
string corner on him?
Yes.
Yeah, he 8 for 162 in that
Yeah,
game.
okay.
But
Yes.
he's like he's
The
a Hall
best
of
Packers
Famer.
receiver ever, or one of them.
Yeah, in my opinion, he's a Hall of Fame player. Like that's how good
Right.
Devontae Adams has been.
Right.
He's going to end up top 10 in touchdowns all time. There aren't a whole lot of wide receivers who have 3 first-team All-Pros. Like he is in rarefied air. And
Although
that's
I
what
learned
Romeo
today,
Dobbs did this week.
I learned today if you have 6 All-Pros as a center, it does not make you a Hall of Famer. Because what makes Jason Kelce a Hall of Famer, apparently? But
his podcast. He's pretty much us. Like we're pretty much Jason Kelce because we have a podcast.
He's much better looking, has a lot more money, and his wife loves him, I presume. So he's got those things going for him at least. But nonetheless, I lost my train of thought. Romeo Dobbs definitely gets a line of thought there for me as a player of the week. And then since, it's a playoff game, they won defense. Darnell Savage, because like I said, the game was over. Wayne Larrivee didn't give the dagger at that call. He did it after the Musgrave touchdown. But Darnell Savage, because he has been like the whooping, every team has the guy that the fans say like, oh, this guy sucks. And basically if they just replace him, everything's good. For years, it was like Dean Lowry got blamed for anything. And before him, it was Blake Martinez. And on the offensive side of the ball, it would be like the offensive lineman who's not so good or just stuff like that. Darnell Savage has kind of become that player on the defensive side of the ball for the Packers when they're not complaining about the coordinator. Like Savage was awesome. And Savage, like low key, kind of been a pretty good player for the Packers in the playoffs when he has been able to play in those games.
Yeah.
So the pick 6 was a big deal. It looked like vintage 2020, 2021 Darnell Savage. He's a guy that, in my opinion, I don't know what the free agent class looks like. I haven't done a ton of study on the draft class. So I can't say too much about that, but I do know that the Packers probably need to bring a safety in free agency back. And I think Darnell Savage on a potential pillow contract, if they can do that. Some of it depends on if Barry's the coordinator or if somebody else is, obviously, and what they think of that situation too. But if nothing else, this was a huge moment for him. A guy who he's kind of one of the unsung heroes, if you will, of this defense, because the communication is much, much better than it was prior to him being out of the lineup. Because without him in the lineup, it really is just a bunch of young guys and special teamers, nobody that's played a whole lot of safety snaps. So
yeah,
I thought it was a big day for him, and obviously the huge play. I mean, you get a pick 6 in a playoff game. Packer players that have a pick 6 in a playoff game, that's a list that includes like Herb Adderley, who's in the Hall of Fame. I mean, Tramon Williams obviously is on that list. I'm trying to think of the last pick 6 that a Packer had in a playoff game, and it might be Tramon, like going all the way back to that particular game. I can't think of another one.
No, you're missing a fairly significant one.
Oh, the Nick
from
Collins
3 weeks later.
pick 6 in the Super Bowl. Yeah.
Pretty big one.
Yeah, pretty big deal. It's hanging on my wall over here, for God's sake. But yeah, I mean, you join a list that has Nick Collins, who might have been a Hall of Famer if he didn't get injured, and Tramon Williams, who's a Packer Hall of Famer, no question about it, and Herb Adderley, who's in the real Hall of Fame. Like, there's got to be something for that. So Shields Shields picked off Cap in 2012. Interesting.
All right. Real quick, because our guy is still here in the YouTube comments. And I want to address this 49ers game because we got plenty of time left. And I want to get to it because it's obviously a big deal. By the way, I know he didn't have a great PFF grade for the week or whatever. I thought Kenny Clark played a really good game. And maybe it wasn't a perfectly sound game, but he was very disruptive, especially in the first half. One time made a perfect run stuff that led to a TFL, had a tackle for loss of his own as well. I thought Kenny played a really strong game, and I was really, really appreciative. He continues to play really well. And he's had something of a bounce back year, a resurgent year, and he's still only 17 years old. Can you believe it? He hasn't even graduated high school yet. Kenny Clark. Wow. How incredible. But yeah, it was just such a great team effort all around there. You could give it to Zach Tom, who was awesome. Our guy Mark in the YouTube comments mentioned no pressures allowed by him in the game. I thought Big E, aside from that hold, he was really good throughout the majority of the game. Just an awesome. Yeah, Aaron Jones, man. I
just wanted to make sure you didn't skip him.
Yeah, no, you're right. he's special. Like there are special players because they're talented. There's special players because of the people they are. And then there's Aaron Jones, who's both.
Did you see
the
awesome, clip with Jaden Reed and him from films?
Oh,
incredible.
Awesome. Like the reverence those guys have for Aaron Jones. Jaden Reed saying that he feels messed up if he doesn't block for Aaron Jones. Like that's a rookie wide receiver with a guy he's known for literally a matter of months who says how much he respects him and he wants to go block for him. I thought too, the moment at the start of the clip that you're talking about from NFL Films where Rashawn Gary is talking to him. One, Rashawn Gary is terrifying. Like if I saw Rashawn Gary in person, I would just like beg him not to murder me. Two, you can tell he's also one of those leaders in the locker room. Pretty much every time we see a post-game locker room clip or see something from him on the sideline, he's also clearly one of those most respected voices in the room. But the way, man, that they treat 33 and the way people care about him and the care he shows back to other people, that's not normal. And I'm not just talking football, man. That's not normal in life to have someone like that who is that good to you. And if you have someone like that in your life, you are a very lucky man, lucky woman, lucky person, whatever, to have someone like that. He's a special player and he's a special guy. And I'm very happy that he's a Packer. And we complain and bitch about the cap guy on Twitter all the time. Not one specific person, but just people who are obsessive about cap space stuff. I don't care, dude. If he's healthy and he's producing like this, keep him next year and give him another contract
just a cap number. And he's much more than just a running back that allegedly doesn't matter. Like there are things that we don't know and or people like that don't pay attention to. And those things matter 1,000%. That's kind of the thing that is difficult about putting together a championship. Somebody was asking me the other day, like, Philly season obviously ended last night. They're in the Super Bowl last year. Last year, they seem to have everything going on the right track and the team chemistry is great and the vibes are awesome and blah, blah, blah. It's hard to harness that magic. Like that's one of the hardest things to do in sports. And that's why like enjoy the seasons you get while you can. And the seasons that you get like that, you got to cash in on them because it's just so hard to get to that mountaintop and recapture what those things are.
Can you believe that third all-time in Packers history in rush yards, an all-time great teammate, a great all-time Packer? Can you believe he's made one Pro Bowl and like that's it? There's no offensive player of the year honors. There's no like 4 Pro Bowl, 5 Pro Bowl stretch. Certainly no all pros. Like that's his only postseason honor, 1 Pro Bowl, and he's been this big of a deal and this big of a star for this team and such a well-known guy for so long. And in the grand scheme of things, that stuff doesn't matter. And it doesn't mean a whole lot to him either. But it's kind of crazy that someone who's been that impactful for that long has not had that kind of after the fact recognition, which tells me that once he does hang it up, which I hope is not anytime soon, and I hope he can play for years more, and I hope he plays for Green Bay for years more, like that tells me that after his career, people are going to say, holy crap, what a player he was. Like, what a special, special Green Bay Packers running back for a franchise that has had a lot of special ones over time. Let's get to the 49er game because there is a bunch to get to. Packers are a heavy underdog. We're not at all surprised by that. 49ers, well rested. They rested a bunch of dudes in week 18, had the week off in the wild card round. Over-under for this game is 50. Packers are an underdog by 9.5 points in the Bay Area. Like, I get it, and I think both of us, based on what you teased a little bit earlier and how I'm feeling as well, like I don't expect a win in this game. Similarly to the Cowboys game, although albeit much tougher, there is certainly a path to winning this game, and it largely comes down to number 10 having another sensational game. It's possible. It is absolutely possible. I don't think I would pick it. I think the 49ers are really good. I think the 49ers have a good offensive scheme. I think a lot of the reasons why they have put the Packers in hell over the last decade-ish is a lot of those issues are still present because a lot of them are embedded in the Packer defense. But this team's going to fight. This team's not going to curl up and die like past teams in the last 5 years have for this Green Bay franchise. They're going to fight. They might not win, but I'm excited. Like I'm going into this completely excited because this team truly, and not in a Georgia Bulldogs, no one believed in us way, but in a true, actual, no one thought the Packers were getting to this spot, especially after that rough stretch in the middle of the year, especially after losing to Tommy DeVito and then the Buccaneers on a perfect
The only
passer rating from
Italian
Jake
person in the history of professional football, Tommy DeVito.
I know. Can you believe it? Like it's possible that the Packers win. I doubt it will happen, but this team's going to go down with a fight. You absolutely know that's the truth.
Yeah, they are. I'm not worried about, and I hate to be the guy who's like picking at Aaron Rodgers, but like I just had this glimpse in my brain and from the championship game a couple years ago where he fumbles the snap and then just kind of like puts his head up and rolls his eyes kind of thing. Like some of that shit got old, by the end of his time here. And it almost felt like, if Green Bay fell behind, the game was over because that was it. He was just going to pout for the majority of the time. And it didn't always go that way. Obviously, he's one of the greatest players to ever wear this uniform. But this team, they're too young to know better. And that's a blessing in a way because they have and not only that, when it comes to pressure, there isn't any on them because the Packers are the 10-7 team or 10-8 team, excuse me, that wouldn't have made the playoffs in a normal, in a 16 format which existed not that long ago. And the 49ers are the 1 seed juggernaut that everybody at the beginning of the year was picking to go to the Super Bowl and some even to win it. Definitely think that that's a possibility. I will say this. If there's one coach who's capable of screwing something like this up, it is Kyle Shanahan.
That is correct.
And for all the accolades and the verbal filleting that Twitter gives him, more blown double-digit leads than actual championships in playoff games. Mm-hmm. Just tossing that in there. But he's a really good coach, and they're a really good team. And something I'm working on is, the way the Packers are trying to build their team. San Francisco is kind of like the final boss mode. If anybody's played a video game, you guys kind of know what that means. The final boss of the game is like the thing you work your way up to. That's kind of what the Niners are, and the Packers are still in their infant stages. And I think that, you just look at things on this team that could give the Packers trouble. They've done a good job against pass rushers in recent memory, but Nick Bosa is better than all those guys.
Mm-hmm.
And Eric Armstead eats their ass like every time he faces them. Mm-hmm. And Fred Warner is the best linebacker in football. And just, on and on down the list. Chase Young, they've got pass rushers coming out of their ears. Like, it's incredible the way that they've built that side of the football. And I didn't even get to the offense yet where they have Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, and Christian McCaffrey. Like, they are loaded and they should win. Mm-hmm. And that's where, like, I've kind of been saying all week, like, I feel, I guess, better about the matchup because the game will start and the Packers have a chance to win because they're playing. But San Francisco is the better team, and they're supposed to be. And I'm definitely a big proponent of, Willie Davis used to always say, you either win or you lose. There's no in between on that. Mm-hmm. I agree with that most seasons, but I don't know how you can look at this season, even if they lose 45-0 on Saturday, as anything but a rousing success. And I think that is not the way they are going to look at it. And that's a good thing, but that is kind of the way that I'm looking at it. I guess I just don't see the path. The way I described it, Mike Kawano described it to me earlier. There's a path, but it's like very narrow and there's 1,000-foot cliff drop-offs on each side. And then I added in that the gate, the ground under your feet is like rocky and steppy. It's like the bridge in Shrek where Donkey's like, don't look down, don't look down, don't look. That's the bridge that Green Bay's on, but there's no ropes on the side. And the bridge is like, 6 feet more narrow. It's fun. It's been fun to watch this team. It's been fun to cover this team this year. But it feels like, the Homer Simpson meme, the end is near.
I know going into week 18, and we talked about this and we mentioned it on the show, that I wasn't ready for this season to be over at that point. And losing to the Bears in that spot would have been horrible. Now the Bears also are horrible, so that didn't end up being an issue. But, we compared it a lot to last season when, the Packers had a chance. They controlled their own destiny going into week 18, going into that game against the Lions, but the vibe was completely shifted around. It was all behind the Lions. It felt weird for the Packers. There was all the will he, won't he stuff hanging over everything. That run to even get to that point felt a little bit fraudulent. It felt like, hey, it'd be nice to make the playoffs. I wanted to make the playoffs last year. I'm not cheering for draft picks, but it also felt kind of like this year's been stressful. Like this year has been a lot. Whereas this season, we got to week 18 going into that do or die game. And it felt like I want more of this. Like, I want more of this team. I want to see more of Jaden Reed and get Christian Watson back and see Aaron Jones continue this hot streak and everything that came with that. And we got more. And that's what I was hoping for when you talk about adjusting expectations as the year goes on and what we were able to get by the time we hit the last week of the regular season and into the postseason. And now we get more of it again because they went out and just went nuts against the Cowboys this past weekend. So I'm not saying this like it's a post-mortem. Like there's no chance it's over. It can't possibly happen. This is the NFL, and all things considered, while the 49ers, you could argue, have the most talented roster in the NFL, all these dudes are professionals. So it's not like, this is not like it's Alabama versus, like a G5 conference champion.
Georgia Southern.
Yeah. Like they're both champion, like conference champions, but let's be realistic. The talent level is
champions, but yeah, go on.
Yes, the national champions, Michigan, yes, but like that, what I'm talking about. Like that is a level of talent that is completely on different planets. Whereas in the NFL, it's not like that from team to team. That's why upsets happen. That's why there's so many teams that hover around 500 every single season. It's doable. I don't think it's going to happen. I would take, if you're asking me, pick the game straight up, who are you taking? I would take the 49ers. Give me the Packers to cover. 9.5 is a big number for a divisional round matchup, even when you've got the NFL, curve of talent deficiency between these two teams, the margin of talent between these two teams. But hell, man, why not? Why not be at least optimistic that this is going to be a game? Because at this point, that's all I can hope for. I don't think this is going to be a Super Bowl team. I've said that all year long. I don't know that they're going to win this game. And if they get to Detroit or Tampa, I guess, like maybe you don't win that one either. I don't know. I can't predict the future. It's going to be.
If they win this game, my expectations skyrocket.
Well, yeah, that's also true. I'm more being a little like existential here. Like, I have no idea. I'm not a Calvinist. I don't think it's all predetermined anyway. Like I'm not at that point for this team, but I do think there's going to be a chance to keep this game competitive. I assume I am at the point where I am expecting, even if the Packers are going to lose, this is going to be a game right down to the wire, because why wouldn't I? After what we've seen the last few weeks, why wouldn't I feel that way? Or at least let me rephrase that. And it's rhetorical, but also a real question. Why shouldn't I feel that way?
Because I don't feel that way. I'm not saying they're going to lose like 34-13 or anything crazy like that, but the gap in talent and understanding is just, like I said, it's really wide. And this San Francisco team is crushed like they beat the piss out of the Eagles, who we figured out now aren't very good, but they beat the crap out of the Cowboys. I don't think they played Detroit, but they're really good. And like I said, this is a team, it feels like kind of in this way, the 93, 94 Packers that were on the rise, but then they ran into the Dallas Cowboys. And it's like, okay, so the Cowboys they're there, they're ready. Maybe it's 95 now. And the 49ers are the team that's supposed to get back to the Super Bowl and do all the things that they did the year prior. And this is the 95 Packers that are just kind of seasoned, but don't really know any better. And a couple big plays go their way early and bang, it's on its way. But I think San Francisco covers. And that's not even a slight to the Packers necessarily. It's just, I don't know how Green Bay slows them down on the offensive side of the ball. And on offense, eventually, like San Francisco is the best defense that they've faced. And granted, that doesn't matter. Like Green Bay has ripped up some really good defenses in the last 6 weeks. Minnesota, Chicago, say what you will about, LOL, their offenses, but their defenses are legit. Dallas's defense is legit. I do think Green Bay will be able to make their plays, but this is a game where I feel like you have to score 31, 34 type of points just because they're not going to be able, and Kyle Shanahan is more than happy to oblige you if you just want him to run the ball and bash your skull in. I think it was the divisional round against Minnesota a few years ago. They ended the game like 31 consecutive run. It was Michigan versus Penn State-esque with the way they ran the ball at the end of that game. It was incredible. So I don't know. I'm certainly not hopeful, I guess, but I'm kind of in the boat of I'm just happy to be here, which I kind of hate that is the feeling that I have, just because I do prefer, pressure is a privilege, as Garrett Cole likes to say. But the Packers don't have any of that because they weren't expected to be here at this point.
Mm-hmm. I will give you this. I will give you the one reason why I think this team, the defense is what it is. I don't know what to expect. Either they're going to play, reasonably well like they did in the first 3 quarters this weekend, or like they did against the Vikings and the Bears, or we're going to see whatever the hell was on the field against Carolina, and it's just unplayable. And if that's the case, like if we get to a point where the defense is an unplayable mess, it really doesn't matter what the offense does because they're not going to get any stops. So I will give you a reason offensively where I think the Packers could develop a little bit of something here. If you had to guess, and I don't know how much you love the advanced numbers, the nerd numbers, the spreadsheet, stuff like that. But in terms of EPA, so expected points added against the rush, where do you think the 49ers rank over the course of the regular season?
I would guess. I know they're ranked near the top in just like the raw numbers. They're not at the top, but yeah, I would 7th, 8th.
Overall, 10th in EPA per play, which is good. I mean, top 10 defense. That's really good. And as much as some people would like to tell you this, EPA is not everything. It's just one tool to use, but I think it's useful. I like using it.
Sure.
Against the run for a full 18 weeks, the 49ers 26th in the NFL. If you're going to make this work, it's probably the kind of game where you need another superstar performance from Aaron Jones. Or if A.J. Dillon's able to come in and give Jones a break for 3 extra snaps, awesome. Because right now, I want Aaron Jones out there as much as possible. If you can make something happen with that running game, slow the game down. No, we saw it. I thought the Packers, when they had that great drive to open the game against Dallas, I thought the approach was going to be these drives need to take off a ton of clock. Don't let their offense back on the field. Give Dak as few chances as possible. Eat up a bunch of clock when you're able to get points. Got to score all the time. And it didn't end up being that way because it was a massacre. But I think, again, that's probably a strategy worth at least thinking about in this game. If you're able to run it, and you're able to run it successfully, maybe you use that to get some defensive backs to cheat up. You try some shot plays over the top. You get Musgrave involved again, going vertically. Maybe that is the way you make it work. So that's the one area, at least on paper, that I could see the game. And the Niners know this. Like, the Niners know what the Packers want to do. But that's what I would say, is if you can get that kind of performance out of Aaron Jones, eat up clock, move the ball effectively on the ground, try to open up a couple of deep shots for Love, maybe that ends up being your best opportunity. We're almost out of time here. Let's get your official pick.
49ers 31, Packers 20.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I was going to go 27-20. I've got the Packers at 22. I think they cover, though. I think this team is going to cover. I think that fight is going to be meaningful. One last comment. I don't mean to focus on other stuff, but we have in the comments, team on a mission versus a team that's just happy to be there. The Packers aren't on a mission? Because I would disagree with that personally, but different strokes for different folks. We got to get out of here. We've got other shows coming up here on the Game On Wisconsin Network. We're getting froze out here at the top of the hour. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Go check out all of Jacob's fantastic work covering the Packers. You can find him at Packer Central, part of the Sports Illustrated Fan Nation vertical. And yes, I meant it. Fantastic. Go click the link or he doesn't get paid. You can just find me tweeting into the void at BrendanDZW on Twitter. You can also catch me on the radio in Topeka, Kansas, 580 Sports Talk, and online at 580WIBW.com. Either next week, we're going to be offering a post-mortem for the season, or we're going to be getting ready for an NFC championship game. We can't wait to find out this weekend. But until then, for my partner, Jacob Westendorf, I'm Brendan Dworzinski. You got to believe. We'll talk to you next week right back here on the Final Dump. Oh, my God, I did it.
Oh, wow.
And I gave the wrong podcast. I just wish I was
thinking about your ex.
Sorry.
Wow.
Thinking about Matt Fralick. For the Pick Six, Jacob, Brendan, we'll talk to you next week.